If you're wondering what the difference is between a bulging disc and a herniated disc, then today's video has the answer for you. My name is Harlow and I'm the Over-Fifties specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today we're going to be talking about the differences between a bulging disc and a herniated disc. Now, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please do remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you'll be the first to hear about our new content. But let's talk about disc problems. So when we talk about bulging discs or herniated discs, we're talking about discs within the spine. So I've got my spine model here to show you exactly what we're talking about. So if you look at the spine here, this is a human spine. And these white things here, these white bones are called the vertebra. So these are the building blocks of the spine. And then in between these vertebrae, you have these jelly fluid sacs that sit in between every single one of the vertebra here. Now, obviously the vertebrae are bone, so they're solid. The discs, they are made up of tough bands of collagen fibers, and in the middle there's a fluid center. And the reason we have these is so that the spine can be flexible. If we didn't have these and we just had the building blocks, we'd all have rigid spines, so we wouldn't be able to bend, we wouldn't be able to twist, we wouldn't be able to be active at all. Now, a common problem that can occur with a disc is something called a disc bulge or a disc herniation. And that is when a weakness develops in the disc which causes the fluid center to push towards the back of the spine. Okay, so to give you an idea of what this looks like, I've got a zoomed in section here of a vertebra. So normally we have a nice flexible disc in between the two bones. But if we have a weakness, we end up with this. So we end up with, as we move, the fluid center starts to push towards the back of the disc. And if you can see at the back of the spine here, right in the middle of the spine, we have the spinal cord, and coming off from every single level of the spinal cord, we have a nerve. So if the disc problem, the disc bulge or the disc herniation touches that nerve, you're going to get symptoms. And if you have a disc bulge that touches a nerve in the lumbar spine, which is the bottom of the spine, that's going to give you something called sciatica, which is pain all the way down the leg. Now, if you have a disc bulge up here in the neck, you are going to get a similar symptom, but this time it will be in your arm, because the nerves here in the neck, they run all the way down the arm, and the nerves down here in the lumbar spine, they run all the way down the leg. So we can tell whereabouts in the spine your problem is based on the pattern of the pain in your arm or your leg. So it's quite clever like that. Now let's talk about the difference between a bulging disc and a herniated disc. And it's a very simple difference. A bulging disc is where the disc is still intact, but as you move, it bulges like this and then goes away, okay? But a herniated disc is one level of severity above, which is where the fluid center has actually extruded from the disc. So it's left the disc, it's broken fully and the fluid has gone, okay? So the fluid has come out. Now you might be thinking, oh, herniated disc sounds much worse than a bulging disc, and quite often it is, but not always. So the severity of your symptoms don't always reflect the severity of the injury. In fact, many people find that they can get better from a herniated disc quicker than they can a bulging disc. We don't always know why that's the case, but sometimes it is. And sometimes even the smallest disc bulges, if they're coming out at just the wrong angle, can cause much worse symptoms than even a full disc herniation. Now, they heal in slightly different ways. So in a bulging disc, the disc has to knit back together. But in a herniated disc, you might have lost the shape of the disc entirely, so it won't ever heal back to what it was. However, in both of these problems, you can usually restore the health of the nerve if a nerve's been affected and improve the movement of the spine with the right therapy and rehabilitation, which is what we specialize in here. Now, there are other things to consider with a bulging or a herniated disc. One is the fact that The disc structure itself is made up of about 90% water. So if you're dehydrated, it tends to make bulges and herniations feel worse. So make sure you stay hydrated. The other thing to remember is that this bulge, if you have a bulge here, it's not there all the time. So in certain positions it will be worse, and in certain positions it will be better. So one of the best things you can do is to try and find positions for yourself which feel comfortable, which don't set off your leg symptoms or your arm symptoms. Now, for most people who have a disc herniation, if they sit or if they bend forward, the bulge or the herniation feels worse. And if they stand or if they make sure they're upright or if they lie flat, it feels better. So take advantage of those comfortable positions if you've found ones that work for you. Now, if you have a disc herniation, it is a myth that you always need surgery. You certainly don't. But if you have a range of symptoms where both legs are affected, or if you have a bladder problem or a bowel problem, or if you have numbness in your private parts, this constitutes an emergency and needs to be looked at by an orthopedic surgeon as soon as possible. So those are the instances where surgery is definitely recommended. The other instances where surgery might be recommended are if you've failed all other kinds of rehabilitation, so that physio's not worked, chiropractor's not worked, resting and waiting has not worked. Then we might think about, maybe surgery is an option on the table. But for the vast majority of people, 90 to 95% of people do get better from bulging and herniated discs without needing surgery. Anyway, I hope that's answered some of your questions around the differences between a bulging and a herniated disc. If you've enjoyed this video, you can always pick up a copy of my book, Thriving Beyond 50, which will have loads more health information and advice for over 50s who want to stay fit, mobile and healthy. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next one.